Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. We are 1 week until the NBA trade deadline. Lots of news for us to get into. I'm Trevor Lane, Keith Smith with me as always. And Keith, we've got a guest today. It's our pal, Eric Pincus. Eric, happy to see you here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have Eric with us. We're going to get into some stuff about Sports Business Classroom, a new offering that is new this year. So as Eric points to the banner behind him. But before that, we're going to talk some stuff because we might have a fairly big name player maybe available in the trade market. So let's start off there.
Yeah, let's go here. A Giannis trade now seems realer than ever. We've got 1 week until the trade deadline. Teams working fast and furious to try to get Giannis Antetokounmpo away from the Milwaukee Bucks. This is what the market has really been waiting for. There have been a lot of teams hoping that Giannis would become available. They've been holding on to assets in order to make a run at him. Keith, maybe not a surprise that this is where we wound up, but do we see this actually get done in the next week here?
We'll see. You know, talking to teams yesterday, the sense I was getting was that why we might see this get done here before the trade deadline is because they don't want it to become open to a wider market this summer. For example, Trevor, your Lakers, it's hard for them to get in on Giannis right now, realistically. But in the summertime, they've got cap space. They can trade a couple extra draft picks. There's other ways they could get involved, which then puts them in the mix. And that's where folks are kind of saying, yeah, you may see some of these teams say, let's act now. Because if we can get them in, then you get the benefit of, especially if you're going to be a postseason team, we'll get them for whatever we have left the rest of this season. We can then figure out all the rest of this from there. So that part seems there. But why I use this as the banner seems realer than ever. That is the prevailing thought as you talk to people around the league, even people who are like, we've been down this road. Feels like we've been there right up to the exit ramp, and then let's stay on the highway in Milwaukee, and we're not going anywhere. Now everybody is like, yeah, this time it feels real, whether it's within the next week or whether it's within the next few months before we get to when we get to the start of the offseason.
Eric, where are you at on this whole thing? Do you see, is Milwaukee just trying to set prices right now so that they can swoop in and make a move this summer?
I mean, I think the answer, obviously, we don't know, right? Like, we're a week out, and we'll know. I'll tell you this in a week.
Sure.
But to Keith's point, like, opening it up to a wider field has benefit for Milwaukee. So you mentioned the Lakers. They're just one of many teams. Right now, the Lakers have one first they can trade. They can get to about 3 in the summer. You just go down the list of teams that might have more to offer. So, talking to various people, whether it's player agents or people with teams, I'm getting kind of conflicting news or conversations because I don't think people really know. And so they're trying to fill in the blanks. Some are like, yeah, they're going to try to get it done. They're listening to everyone. They're going to try to do it their way, blah, blah, blah. And then another voice, the angel and the devil, one, I don't know which one's which, but is saying, like, no, they're just trying to gauge the market now so that they could, they're fact finding. They're figuring out where things are so that when teams at the draft have a lot more to offer. Now, you get a high pick. Well, what high pick are we talking about? Because maybe it's after the lottery and they know exactly who's in the draft. And if they're getting a number 5 pick, just making that up, they have an idea of the 5 players they can pick from. Or are they getting a boatload of picks, or a team like the Lakers joining the fray, that sort of thing. So the other element of the equation is the buzz that has all year has been that the Bucks are trying to add to Giannis to try to make this team better. When I've talked to everybody, no one said that the Bucks are shopping. I spoke to the Bucks, who only speak so much, to someone, a reporter in general. But several months ago, I spoke to someone at the Bucks, and they're like, it's just business as usual. They're trying to get better. They're not trying to trade their best player. That was a pretty simple conversation for them to have with someone in the media because it's, pretty straightforward. But if Giannis is the one who's saying, I need to leave and I'm not staying, and then it'd be his agent who would do it. But if he's more and more willing to be the public face of it, which I don't know he is, does he just go along as a passenger to wherever they trade him, or does he become the driver of the bus to say, I only want to go to New York, I only want to go to Miami, I only want to go to a few teams? So I think we're hearing right now the initial, like, yeah, everyone's shopping and everyone thinks they got a shot, but is there a point where Giannis himself is like, yeah, I only have 1 year left, because he's a player option before 27, 28. So next year is his last year under contract officially. So does he say Atlanta? I'm just making up. I don't want to go there. Does he say Minnesota? Don't want to be there. Ant may want him, and he may want to play with Ant, but maybe he doesn't want to go to Minnesota. You know, again, this is not. Don't aggregate all that. I'm just sort of
Sure.
randomizing. You know what I mean? And does he say this is where I want to be? Is he forceful? Does he get specifically what he wants? And if if he's forcing a trade that the Bucks don't want, is he just going to go wherever they send him? And I'm skeptical on that front. I think he directs ultimately where he ends up.
Well, no, I think added to that as well, if you're, obviously you're not supposed to, but back channeling and all that. Let's say you're, I don't know, Miami, and you're interested in Giannis, you're going to want to find out from Giannis, are you willing to extend with us when we offer that to you this summer if we complete this trade? So one way or another, Giannis is probably going to have to weigh in to at least some degree on the landing spot. But you're right. He could say, I only want to go to these two teams or this one team or these five teams or whatever, and really sort of drive that conversation. But if I'm a team and I'm trading for Giannis, I want to know, do I have a shot at keeping him? Because if I don't, then obviously that's going to have to be a factor in what I'm willing to offer and how in on the conversation I actually am.
Yeah, I think it would be shocking if a team just traded for Giannis with no, I'm going to use guarantee very much in air quotes there,
Sure.
that he is staying long term, because obviously that won't be an allowed thing to happen. To be very clear on this, because there's confusion, Giannis is not eligible to extend until October. This is not going to be a summertime thing. This is not going to be an extend and trade thing or anything like that. Come October, that's when he can extend. So, but anybody who's trading for is going to have some sense of, let's get this done. Hey, look, Eric's right in the mix with us with the pets.
Yes.
On this show, Eric, we have ours show up all the time. So perfect.
This is what it is.
No, we love it.
Yeah, I'm in front of my computer a lot this time of year, so she knows how to work me.
Yeah, we get but guarantee we'll get more comments on that than probably anything else. That's how it goes. People love the animals. But yeah, I think the sense that you're getting, and I'm glad Eric pointed it out, is some of this can be, how are we're having the conversation now, but we're setting the stage for something that happens in June or July. Because what we often see at this time of year, especially when you're talking superstar player, max contract, it's hard. It's not easy to get those deals done. You can. We know you can. It happens every year. Guys get moved, but it is tricky. And one of the teams, like I'm going to use Minnesota, for example. It's hard for them to get a deal done in season for Giannis. Can they? Sure. But they're working under some constraints that are going to be tricky. But in the summertime, it just becomes a little bit easier to get that kind of movement. And what you might see happen is set the stage. The example I always use is when Mike Conley was on the market back when he was with the Grizzlies in the Utah Jazz. It was reported we're extremely close to a deal, but then they just couldn't get the right pieces. They couldn't get a third team involved. What happened just a few months later? Mike Conley got traded to Utah. And that's often how we see these things kind of play out, where it becomes, all right, set the stage for this stuff, and then it'll be easier there. And then it's almost in some ways a little easier too, because we don't have to rehash all the value on these guys. One other thing I will say, absolutely no one mentioned any concern at all with his current injury as far as trading for him, beyond of course we'll do the medical to rule out that this is not a long-term thing that's going to lead somewhere worse. But everybody was like, yeah, we're not worried about that at all. Like you're trading, it's Giannis that you're trading for. You're not going to stress on that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say we do go down that path though, of the Bucks don't wind up moving Giannis. It's we've seen a Trae Young trade. That's it so far. Obviously, the Giannis news has caused the market to heat up quite a bit, and there's a lot of discussion happening. But if the Bucks don't wind up moving Giannis by the deadline here, the slow trade season here could very well continue all the way past the final buzzer. Eric, are you surprised at all that this is where we're at this stage, a week until the deadline, and really the only move has been a Trae Young trade?
Well, let's see. So last year we had a couple around December 15th because of some of the changes in the aggregation rules. But January, there's usually one or two. We got one or two. Right. Well, we got one, but we got, it has been a quiet season, but it's easy to forget that most of the activity is the week of the deadline. It's not necessarily the 5th. Like if it's a Thursday, we usually start to get activity over the weekend or up to the Monday before, and you start to get one or two trades and some dominoes start to fall because there are some complexities, and sometimes the move might need one move to facilitate another move, et cetera. So I do think that potential's there. I've spoken to quite a few folks. And again, it's just like with the Giannis thing. There's a varying degree of opinions of where this is going to go. And I'm a little more conservative just by, I've learned by nature in terms of, teams actually getting stuff done. But, I talked to one gentleman with a team who was just like, man, like Jaren Jackson Jr. this, and, going down the list of names that could move. And there's motivation from teams to get into this draft because 2026 is viewed as a strong one. 2027 is not viewed, at least in NBA circles at this time, to be very strong. So, and then there's a lot of contracts. I mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. has got a big deal. Memphis might want to pivot to go and get under, just get out of that big money. They just gave him a giant deal. Maybe go in a different direction, build through the draft because the team is obviously not in the direction that they had hoped. So that's just one simple example of what we could get in this next week. It's just a question of, going back to the honest thing, are teams holding on to that cachet of picks or players or just that potential? Only one team will get Giannis, and it might even be 0 teams if you don't count the Bucks and they don't trade him at all, and he starts next season. So it's possible that we're spinning wheels. But, one more thing to consider is in the West, what team is going to push in their chips thinking that they're going to be able to catch to OKC or even, San Antonio? I mean, they're young, so maybe you could catch San Antonio and beat them in a series just based on their inexperience. But that's what a lot of folks thought was going to happen to OKC in the playoffs last year, right? That didn't prove to be true. So, but in the East, it is relatively wide open. The Pistons are the best team. The Knicks are showing weakness. They got to the conference finals last year. Obviously, Indiana's a non-factor this year. But the East is so relatively wide open that I could see some teams in the East want to make that push. So if there's a buyer that's like, go for it now, it's probably in the East. But if you can land a franchise player that is a long-term piece in the West, you're going to do that. It's just a question of, does that player come available and how hard it is to get a deal done. And then, just to go back to the Lakers and a team like that, a team with cap space in the summer that has flexibility, that doesn't have the picks right now. Yeah, they'd make a move if there was one that was a home run for them. But so, to get to the question that's on the screen, am I surprised that it's been slow? Not particularly. I think we look back with a memory of how great the deadline was last year, but we're never probably in our existence going to see like what we saw last year with Luka and Dallas and the Lakers, right? So it was always going to be a letdown this year, period, because we can't top what we did last year. Obviously not the three of us, but we as a collective NBA franchise or family, whatever, that was ridiculous. And so this year, yeah, it's going to be slower because there's not going to be a Luka trade. But hey, by the time we finish this conversation, Giannis could be moved and we could be just, losing our minds. And so I'm excited to see. I like activity. It's more fun for all of us, us cap geeks who like to run the numbers, and it's just fun, and it's fun for the fans. And so let's see what happens. But I am not shocked that it's a little bit slower, though I don't think it's as slow as it feels.
Keith, you've been making the point that, look, even if Giannis doesn't move, stuff is going. It's not going to be Luka level stuff, but stuff is going to happen between now and the deadline. It would be extremely abnormal for nothing to actually take place, even if right now there's a lot of that, the poking at the NBA with the stick meme of come on, do something here. Stuff is coming over the next week.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a handful of teams that are going to do what they need to do to get out of the luxury tax. Like Phoenix is barely above the tax. It would be big for them to get out of the tax. So they'll probably go that way. Denver just above the tax line. There's moves they could make to get out of the tax. And no one's going to get excited about that and jump up and down, except for maybe ownership, which will switch from paying a tax bill to getting a lot of money. But that's all part of the way the game is played. If you want your owner to spend down the line when you're a locked in title contender, well, save them some money today, and you hope they'll make good on that promise. That's where the Celtics were for years. They ducked and dodged to get under the tax, but then when it was time to spend, they went all in and spent a ton of money, and that's where they were. I think what Eric brought up with the draft picks is really crucial. When I've been talking to folks, both on the draft scouting side as well as people on the general front office side, I'll call it, the ones who are making trades and the like, one of the things that's been brought up repeatedly is everybody is a little reluctant to do the here's 4 picks and swaps and everything big, and we go all in trades, just because that handicaps you so much going forward. But a lot of teams are 27, 28 draft picks. We're open because those are seen as going to be weaker draft classes. I had a couple draft people say they're really hopeful that a couple guys who are like borderline lottery picks may say, you know what, I can make good money in school. Let me stay in school and I'll come out a year later, because that will beef up that draft class. Instead of this draft class maybe having 20 to 25 really good players, a lot of teams would rather it be like 14 in each year or something like that, just because that balances out the draft classes. So I do think we are going to see some teams maybe go in on, all right, let's go. But that's not a Giannis package, probably. That's more of a Michael Porter Jr. package. I'm more open to trading a 27 or a 28 first rounder, because if I get Michael Porter, I think I'll be pretty good anyway. Those classes don't project to be very deep. So let's go there. So I think that's part of it. The one thing that I kind of bristle at, and Trevor, you know this, especially in our live shows, I don't like when everything gets blamed on, oh, it's the stupid CBA has ruined everything. Because as Eric said, look at what happened last year. Under the exact same rule set, we had bonkers, crazy level stuff go on. That Jimmy Butler trade was as complicated a deal as we've seen go down because of the Warriors being involved in hard caps and roping in multiple teams, and Dennis Schroeder being reaggregated because he was traded on day one of being allowed the original. There were all kinds of complexities in there, which get me very excited as a cap guy, but it is the CBA has worked as intended. It's made it more difficult for teams to just load up. We've talked about it a lot. There maybe been some unintended consequences, but just saying, oh, the CBA wrecked everything and that's why we've seen no trades, it's just lazy. It's just really not the truth of how things are playing out.
Yeah, exactly. I was one of the, I don't want to say doom and gloom folks, but when the CBA first came out, the rules came out and we were looking at it, I was one of the ones saying, does the NBA really want to restrict trades as much as they have? My fear was that, man, this is going to really hurt the trade market, particularly when we look at the first apron rule, the way that you have to take back less salary than what you trade out if you're above a first apron, which would make it very difficult for two teams above the first apron to trade with each other. And I've been pleasantly surprised. I've been blown away by how creative and how inventive teams have gotten. I don't think the collective bargaining agreement has negatively impacted the market nearly as much as even I expected it to. So I think you're on the money, Keith. This is not a CBA thing that's causing any kind of lack of activity around the NBA right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, the rules loosened trades. They made it easier to make trades. They didn't make it harder to make trades. They made it easier to make trades. They've encouraged extensions. They've encouraged trades. And it's just the most expensive teams, it's harder. But like, we can talk about the Warriors and the Clippers and a handful of teams that this really was directed at. All of those teams got better by reducing payroll. right? And then
Yeah.
the Suns come in knowing the new rules. Matt Ishbia comes in and just has a directive. Let's just go for it. Let's spend. They reduce their payroll and get better. So there is not there's a difference between correlation and causation. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a correlation where teams that are going for it spend, but there's not a real causation where spending results in success. The top two teams last year, bottom payrolls, right? Pacers, Thunder. It is not necessarily just go spend. It's use your chips wisely. Every team has a kind of a prescribed number of bottom chips. You have to spend a certain amount at the bottom. You can't go too high at the top. Everyone's sort of in the middle. That's okay. It's for competitive balance, but more importantly, it's about the split of the money to make sure that balance works so that all players don't lose money. Draymond Green only got paid 91% roughly of his money last year. He can complain about the aprons in relation to the Warriors, but he's losing money supporting his team, which is great. I'm sure the Warriors fans are happy about that. But reality is it's hitting him in the bottom line. But yeah, the most of the teams in the league are still deterred from spending based on 25 or so year old rules that have to do with luxury tax. Like that's just the reality. They put in luxury tax, I forget what year, like in around 2000. And teams don't spend. A lot of them, like 2/3 of the league won't go into the tax. What do they care about the aprons? You know, what are the Hawks or the Hornets or the Bulls or the Pacers? You know, I can go on, like Sacramento. There's a long list. I mean, Orlando might finally pay the tax this year. We'll see, but they also might get out, right? They could get out of Jet Howard. They can get out of Tyus Jones or Jonathan Isaac or something. Sacramento, San Antonio doesn't pay the tax. I mean, they did.
New Orleans has never paid the tax. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we go to 2017, the last CBA, it's like 20 teams just don't pay the tax. So aprons don't impact 2/3 of the league. And they do impact a third. I'm not going to lie and say like it's not, you know, it doesn't exist. But we just had an example of the Warriors having to pivot away from Clay, getting better, and then still being able to add one of the most expensive contracts in the entire NBA in Jimmy Butler. And if Steph doesn't get hurt, I thought they were at least, you know, a top 3 contender in the East. In the West. You know, obviously OKC, Denver, and I didn't have Minnesota as good as they ended up being. I had the Warriors 3rd in terms of what I thought they would do, and then Steph got hurt. It sucks. Injuries suck. That's the takeaway. But you know, I get why people are, and I think, you know, Bob Myers, who did a great job and is a great executive. He was on the draft, and every pick they're asking him for his feedback. He's like, "Oh, it's an apron world." And every move every team makes is about the aprons. And I'm like, you're the 1% of the 1%, right? You were like their team spent more than anybody dating back to 2017. Just looking at the last CBA, they floored. It was like 650 or 700 million total in that range, more than any other team. So if they're complaining about the rules hitting them, they were abusing the rules. And all due respect, like abuse away, like, you know, loophole. Do whatever you can to win. I don't have a problem with that. It's not your problem as a team to worry about BRI split. And if you're an agent, it's not your problem to worry about BRI split or anything. It's your job is to get your client the most money. So I'm not mad at the Warriors for doing what they did, but there are consequences, and the consequences of the consequences, they got better anyway by the new rules. So, all right, I'm off my soapbox. You got started.
No, here's what I'll say. One of my favorite quotes from Jurassic Park: "Life finds a way."
Yes.
Right. And they when everybody's like, "Oh, we're never going to see an in-season trade again," and then these teams are smart. They pay a lot of people to do these things, to figure these things out. And I will say this: the first year we had the full apron rules, Eric and I were at an event at Arizona State where they did a mock trade deadline, and we're going to say 100 college students in that room that figured out 40 some odd trades, and all legal, all had to work, because guess who was checking them? Eric and I and Yossi Goslin. We're doing all the checking on making sure they were all legal. And what I came out of that with, and that was in the November ahead of that year's trade deadline, when everybody was saying, there's going to be no trades. It's going to be dead. And I was like, if 100 college kids can figure out how to make 40 trades, including max contracts and everything else, pretty sure the NBA can figure it out. What has been hammered home for me since has been, especially last summer, our students at SBC made a bunch of trades in a whirlwind trade window at the mock trade deadline. And that, hammered it home that, again, life finds a way. These guys figure it out. And like I said, teams pay people. They hire people to come in, be smart, help them find these ways. And Eric, we want to give you a chance to talk a little bit now about sports business classroom and the new all-star intensive experience, which may be a pathway to some people, starting to find their footing in basketball.
Absolutely. Well, we're in LA. I'm in LA. That's where I live. So the all-star game's coming to me, which is great. So I don't have to travel. But we're downtown, right across from crypto.com, which I like to call Staples Center, or whatever the arena is called, crypto.com arena. We are looking to try to help people break into the industry. And we've had great success every year. We've been doing this since 2016 in Las Vegas at Summer League, and Keith's been a part of it for several years. And this is our first venture outside of Las Vegas, over at downtown LA, right across, as I said, from the arena. So we're really trying to help people break into the industry by helping them learn what it is about, what goes into it, what makes up a team, what makes up a front office, how do teams operate, how does networking come into play, all the things that you might need to learn. And I'll just say that, like, in my younger days of like trying to advance my career and figure it out, I've gone to things that were an auditorium of 1,000 people or 800 or 500 people, and you sit there and people tell you about how they got into the league like 20 years ago, and it's all interesting, but you don't really learn practical, hands-on, how does it help me? And you just get a certificate and you're like, that was cool, but like, great. And we've really aspired not to be that. We aspire to be really interactive, really hands-on. And Keith, we can't do a trade deadline because it's a week after the trade deadline. Not even a week. We start at 9. So we are doing an expansion draft. And so that's been, obviously I'm the lunatic who has to figure this stuff out. And so the thought is to break people into teams of 2 or 3, all 30 teams for phase 1, and they're going to represent all existing NBA teams, and they're going to go through and decide who to expose and make available in the expansion draft. They're going to be allowed to basically submit like blind bids on a trade, where if you want to trade a first, you have to identify exactly what that would be. And then, like, just an example, and sorry, Kings, if I'm giving you an advantage, are mock Kings, but like if you're a first to take Zach LaVine in the expansion draft, that's just like a theoretical, assuming he opts in, et cetera. You get a first. So they would just give out a blind bid. We're giving the 2027 or 2026 first, whatever our pick is for you to take Zach LaVine. Then phase 2, everyone will go and be on the expansion side. So we're just going to expand 2 at a time. So we're going to run parallel earths, and just at the same time, we'll have half the group just doing their expansion draft. It'll be 2 teams working together, pick. They could execute those trades, etc. And then the other half will go. We'll do all of our students, and then the last day you need to present in front of the group. What did you do? We are going to have a midterm. We had originally decided no midterm, but the midterm will be announcing who was exposed, and then questioning those folks, everybody in a group, just asking, like, what's your logic? Okay, you exposed Luka, why Dallas would you do that, right? Like that kind of thing. So anyway, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a ton of speakers, from general managers to agents to whatever. But again, it's interactive. It's interactive in nature. We're not here to just have you sit there in a group and just listen. Depending on the Mavs and their appetite for shooting around, how coaches are, and we're unofficially going to check out their shoot around, provided the Jayston kid doesn't decide they don't need shoot around that day. But we have some things lined up just in case. We're going to do a career fair. Anyway, I could go on forever. It's just, obviously I'm passionate about the stuff. We've done a really incredible, wonderful job of helping people get onto their goals, whether it's be an agent, whether it's work for a team, whether it's like be the @NBA on Twitter /X handle. We've had 2 of our students be that. Currently, one is he's got a shift where like for however many hours, any tweets from the NBA is one of our former SBC students. Some of them work for Clutch. Some of them work for teams. Indiana, we have two guys with Indiana, with the Pacers, and I could go on, but ultimately, it's a wonderful program. We are nearing the end of registration because the thing starts pretty soon. We're not quite at capacity, but we're pretty darn close. It's going to be a smaller group than Las Vegas, just based on it being our first time, and we don't want to overwhelm ourselves and let that hurt the students. So we want to make sure that we do it right. It's February 9th through 13th. I will give you a code that you could use that will help at least get my staff to identify who you are and where you're coming from, and then that will help us get you through the process a little faster. And that's SBC 2026, and then just put EP on there. That's my initials, SBC 2026 EP. If you get it, try to get that right. If you don't, I'll help. I'll make sure. Like, if you leave out a letter and number, we'll figure it out. There you go. Look at that, Matt. All right. Yeah, and just go ahead and sign up. We'll get you through the system, and we'll get to know you. We've got a Discord for communication. I've stayed in touch with people all the way dating back to 2016. But we talk and argue hoops every single day, and it's a lot of fun. And we do our best to try to pay it forward. So I work with Bobby Marks, who's the lead instructor. So can't leave Bobby out. He is, obviously wonderful to work with, and everything that you would think about Bobby if you see him on TV or you've seen him do his thing. He is really just the same guy that you would see, and he's just a pleasure to work with. Ton of knowledge and very generous with it. So he'll be taking office hours every morning. So you want to do breakfast with Bobby. That's a selling point as well, because he'll let you pick his brain. You can talk. We'll talk trade. We're definitely going to digest everything that just happened this deadline, which is in the past, because we're on February 9th. So
let me jump in to add too, because Eric talked about staying in touch with the students. Eric and Bobby, and then all the instructors that are involved, whether it's the new All-Star experience or the Las Vegas experience, you get everybody's contact info, and everybody is really good about staying in touch with the students, and students reach out. I know we had, maybe it was more, it felt like more than usual, Orlando area students in Las Vegas this past summer, and I've been meeting with all of them, and we're going to do something where all of us are going to get together in the springtime, when some of them school is wrapping up and the like, and they're home. We're all going to get together and just hang out and talk basketball and see where everybody's at in the world. But everybody is committed to being a resource, helping as much as they can. It's made abundantly clear, I hope. There's no guarantee you're going to get a job in basketball out of doing this, and no one is going to do it for you. But if you go and do this, you're going to be in a better place to make things happen for yourself. And it's incredible. We had a handful of front office show listeners in Las Vegas last year who came and did the program. Hopefully we'll have a hug. Yeah, I had to give out a couple hugs, because that's a standing offer. If you subscribe to Front Office Show and you show me and you want one, you get a hug. That's what we'll give out there. But yeah, it's going to be a really cool program. It's fun that it's something different, and it's going to be really exciting. So I'm super excited to see how it all comes together, and then obviously when it's nearing time in the spring, we'll have you back, Eric, to talk about Las Vegas as
all
well, in that again, because we'll get everybody there. But yeah, it's guys, go check this out. Go look into it. There's like Trevor said, there's your code. If you do apply, make sure you add that SBC 2026 EP. But yeah, go check it out and see if this is something, because this will help you get moving in your career in basketball, if this is what you want to do.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you guys go check it out. Eric, it's always a pleasure talking hoops with you, and we really appreciate you coming on here and joining us today.
Of course, I'm going to go. And my phone didn't go off. There were no buzzes. So I don't
We're all jumping at every note.
Yeah, every little buzz is like, you got to look down and check, because you never know. Eric, it would have been fun if you were with us. We have a breaking news button we can hit which blares all kinds of loudness there if we get into it. Unfortunately, we didn't. So, but that's our hope this time of year. Our rule is you said maybe a Giannis trade goes down right after we finish recording. Things happen right after we hit end on the recording, and as soon as Trevor and I get in the car to go somewhere to run errands.
That makes sense.
That's how the rule is. That's it's always when you're most inconvenienced by news. Or the school pickup or something like that, and then I'm getting those glares like, why is that guy on his phone on the car line? So, thanks so much for joining us, CP.
Of course, anytime. Thanks for having me, and. Anyone have any questions about the program, reach out to me privately. I'm easy to find. Google, Twitter, whatever. Just find me, and happy to have a conversation. But thanks,
and
guys.
I can promise you, Eric will respond.
Yep.
Like you're not going to get some form response or wait. You're not. You will get a response from me. He maybe is the one of the best people I know about that.
Appreciate that. All right, Joe.
Thanks, EP.
Thanks, Eric. Ever heard of the Sleeper app? Well, here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more, like live stats, including real-time updates and visualization on all the stats, a news feed with lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, and a real-time chat that allows you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. Download the #1 sports app today, experience it for yourself, and use promo code CAPSPACE. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, Keith, we still have a bunch of news to get into.
We do.
There's been a lot going on around the league. Always so much fun having Eric on to talk hoops with him. We're really excited about that. We've got some more guests coming up too as we're getting closer to the trade deadline. But let's go here.
Well, let's pause right before we get into this Jayson Tatum topic. We're going to have an extra live show for you guys this week as everything comes together. Saturday, we'll let you know tomorrow. What's happening with that and timing and all that, but a weekend update version of the show coming because it's trade season and we've got quite a bit happening here.
Gotta love weekend update. All right, let's go here.
We won't be writing each other's jokes about
that's right. I was gonna say, are we gonna write jokes for each other?
I like those are funny.
Those are so funny.
Shay makes Colin Jost say some pretty funny stuff about his wife.
When Scarlett Johansson was there. Oh my God, I was dying.
So good.
I was dying. So fun. We're talking about Saturday Night Live for anybody who isn't aware. All right, Jayson Tatum pushes the brakes on returning. So it seemed like it was all systems go. Tatum's coming back. The Celtics are going to get this big boost. Now we maybe threw a little bit of cold water on that. What's happening here?
Yeah, so let's start with there's been no kind of setback. Nothing like that has happened. There's no re-injury. None of that has happened. This is just Jayson Tatum. There were a few different pieces that kind of came together, all basically pointing towards the same direction. Jayson Tatum did a podcast appearance earlier this week where he said, I have to look at the team's played really well without me. Is it the right thing to come back 50, 60 games into the season and throw that into disarray, with that? He then again reiterated, which he, the team, the medical staff, everybody has said over and over and over again, he will not come back until he is ready. Brad Stevens even said he'll be 110% ready. When I've talked to people, it is, all right, you think you're ready? We're going to give it another week or two, even on top of that, where it is. So the good news is there's nothing to be worried about here. It's just Jayson Tatum is going to continue to be cautious. And is it the right thing? Then Chris Haynes reported last night on NBA TV that Jayson Tatum may not return this season. And Haynes was very clear to say he may, but it's no longer, don't write it in pen that Jayson Tatum is going to be back on the floor at some point. There's this weird thing, Trevor, I don't know how aware you are of it. There's this portion of Celtics fans who have decided that even before the Patriots made the Super Bowl, but now it's picked up steam, that Super Bowl Sunday was going to be Jayson Tatum's return to the lineup. They play that afternoon before the Super Bowl. That
seems unlikely now, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a thing. And it's funny because I saw a couple of people who maybe they're not following it as closely. They're like, didn't they say it was Super Bowl Sunday? Just to be very clear, that was a thing that was invented by someone somewhere. That
we had that in Lakerland with Austin Reeves returning against the Cavs last game. Like that was just like, wait, wasn't this happening? And then there was the whole, even before the Shams, tweet and then delete, even before that was just accepted as that was what was happening.
Yeah. So just to be very clear, no one has ever said Super Bowl Sunday is any kind of timeline for Jayson Tatum to come back. So Chris Haynes reports may not come back at all this year, may still. Determination has not been made. Then it sounds like Ramona Shelburne talked to Jayson Tatum and got the message of, basically we're going to see, we'll see. I want to make sure I get it right the first time that I return. I don't want to come back and have anything that causes it to get sideways. So that's where we're at on this. We just wanted to put it here at the, near the top of this section of the news because it's been a big thing that's been floating around since last night.
All right. And I would assume, Keith, that the Celtics position in the standings, as tempting as it may be, will not have an impact on whether or not Tatum comes back.
Yeah, Brad Stevens was very clear on that. Like, it's not going to matter if they are good, bad, or indifferent. He will play when he's ready to play. Mm-hmm. That's been where they've left that.
And that's the right approach. With something like this, that's the right approach. All right. Unfortunate. Steven Adams out for the season. Now it makes sense why the reporting was that the Rockets were out on the market looking for a big. At first, we thought Steven Adams might be out a few months, but would be back before the end of the season. Now he is out for the season. Now for a Rockets team that has really enjoyed dominance on the offensive glass, and they certainly could have used it last night against the Spurs, has really enjoyed dominance on the offensive glass. Now maybe that superpower has been weakened a little bit without Steven Adams, and this puts them onto the market perhaps as a team going after a big, even though they still have Clint Capella, Alperen Sengun. They're still a pretty big team. But more than that, Keith, the league is better with Steven Adams in it. He's so much fun, and this is such a bummer.
In just on court for the Rockets, hey, I'm being very snide here when I say this, but some of their best offense has been throw it at the rim and go get it.
Yeah.
Like they are.
It was like that last year too.
Yeah. Steven Adams is a massive part of that. Not that they don't still have that with some of their other guys, especially like Tari Eason and Clint Capella. Mm-hmm. But Adams was a big part of that. And you saw it last night. If you watched them play the Spurs, their offense bogged down, and they're not the most creative offense. They don't have a lot of things that they can go to. If jump shots aren't falling, a lot of it turns into, all right, Kevin Durant, go create something, probably in a two-man game with Alperen Sengun. And even as good as those two guys are, and they're both amazing, if a defense can load to that action, it's just going to be hard. And when you're loading to that action with then Wemby as like your backline protector, as you load to that action, it's just going to be difficult. So that's something where we, it's just keep an eye on, the Rockets here. Maybe they do something. Maybe it's, get a little creative with Fred VanVleet's contract or something like that. We'll see. But yeah, this is a bummer. No other way to put it.
And to be fair, it felt, watching the end of that game, it felt like they weren't the same super powered team. Yeah. They actually got one offensive rebound more than I just looked it up, than they average on the season. And they are a historically good offensive rebounding team. I believe last I looked was like a month ago, but they were the best offensive rebounding team percentage wise in like the last 30 years or something like that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Absurdly good there. But nonetheless, you could feel it in that game last night down the stretch that They couldn't create in the half court. They couldn't get good looks. Even KD was missing some of the jumpers that are normally automatic for him. But those are areas where, oh, shoot, KD missed it. That's okay. The defense is going to be scrambled. We got the offensive rebound. We're getting a kick out for an open three, or we're getting a putback right at the rim. And those opportunities were not as available for them down the stretch. And that was, I thought, an issue for Houston. So we'll see. Maybe that Fred VanVleet contract comes into play. They have been reported to be one of the teams that is not in on Giannis Antetokounmpo. I believe Tim McMahon had that.
They were also not in on Kevin Durant.
They were also not in on Kevin Durant. Exactly. So teams are teams are not in on a player until they are.
Yeah.
But San Antonio, another team that reportedly is not in on Giannis Antetokounmpo. But yeah, like you never say never in this league.
Yeah, that whole group of Southwest area or Southwest-ish central part of the country, the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Thunder were also mentioned as they're probably not going to make a run at Giannis, which I think the rest of the league is like, thanks for that. At least, we appreciate your kindness to the remainder of the other teams in the NBA.
All right, let's go here. Evan Mobley out 1 to 3 weeks with a calf injury. Keith, it is the season of calf strains.
Ridiculous.
Around the NBA. Evan Mobley suffering a calf strain. Now, he's out the reigning defensive player of the year. I know the Cavs have been playing good basketball as of late. My Lakers certainly no-showed against them last night, pushed another win onto the Cavs record. But the Cavs are soaring up in the East right now, starting to play better basketball in general, playing with a lot of intensity. And it seems like they're turning the page here. But now you're missing Darius Garland. Now you add Evan Mobley to the mix. Certainly not what they want to be seeing right now as they're starting to build some real momentum.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you're playing better, and now Mobley's out, and it's weird that the timeline is 1 to 3 weeks. Like that seems like a weird timeline to put on it. Like 1 week is not. That's rare that you even get met. It's just kind of we'll miss a week with that. But my guess is, so hopefully that means this isn't overly severe with this. One other Cavs thing here, just real quick, and I put this on Twitter last night, and I think you retweeted it. Fix your court. Like,
yes,
this is getting ridiculous that Luka thankfully avoided any kind of serious injury. But we all saw Drew Smith last year blow out his knee after a year after returning from a serious injury. Drew Smith had just gotten back, was playing pretty well, and went down again. It was weird when Cavs fans get defensive about it. This could happen to your players too.
This is the only court that's like that.
Yeah, everyone should want this fixed. And for anybody who doesn't know, their court sits roughly 10 inches off the concrete part of the floor. Every court sits a little high, but none of them are 10 inches higher than that. And you can even see it with the way the people's seats are courtside because their knees are like up.
It kind of looks like college in a way.
On the floor. And it's Richard Jefferson. You may not have heard it because I knew you were doing your call of the game, but he referenced it after Luka got hurt and said, yeah, I asked about it when I came here to play. And they said it's a flaw within the arena itself, the way the arena bowl is shaped, that's why the court needs to be that way. But these are billionaires that own the team in the arena. Like, let's get this fixed because this is dumb, and that's my soapbox moment there on the stupid court.
No, you're absolutely right. There has to be some type of solution for this. There's got to be some way to fix this. Would have to think that people can figure it out. I'm looking up pictures of it right now so I can show everybody what it actually looks like. I swear there were a bunch going around. Oh, there we go. That's the one that I wanted. Okay, so you can see. I can get it on the screen. There we go. You can see how big the drop off is there between the floor. Like that's what Luka fell into effectively last night. Unfortunately, he was not significantly hurt, but he did say it bothered him throughout the game. The injury. We'll see what the injury report says here. But he was down. He went to the locker room. He was not happy with the people who designed the court when he fell. He had some choice words for that. But this needs to be fixed. Luka, it seems like he avoided serious injury. Obviously, Drew Smith did not, and we're only going to get more. We're only going to see more guys get hurt.
Just add a couple more feet, like if you need, like whatever you need to do. Like I don't know. It's something that's bothered me. And Drew Smith was not the first guy either. Other guys that said Richard Jefferson talked about somebody running off it, chasing a loose ball, and like completely stumbling and falling because they didn't realize the drop off there was like a guy who hadn't played there before or something. But yeah, it's not good. Like, let's get this fixed.
All right, let's go here. Teams gearing up to make a run at Peyton Watson. Keith, I tend to believe rather than lose Peyton Watson, the Nuggets will try to get creative elsewhere. Maybe it could be Cam Johnson, but they're going to try to shed salary because right now, effectively where the Nuggets are at is that in order to retain Peyton Watson at the number that we expect he would be at, which will be a significant raise for him. He is a restricted free agent this coming summer, but that would make them a second apron team. And we are operating under the assumption that the Nuggets will not want to do that. Now, maybe that assumption is not correct. Maybe they say, well, whatever, we'll be a second apron team, and they do that. If they don't want to be a second apron team and they want to keep Peyton Watson, what path do you see them taking?
Yeah, you mentioned it's probably going to have to be trading someone like Cam Johnson. And that doesn't mean in the next week, but
that would be
by the summertime, that could be a Cam Johnson trade. Because you're not, a lot of people said, well, they get off Zeke Naji, maybe you trade Julian Straw there too. That's $11 million. That's not going to get you there. Peyton Watson's, and then you still have to backfill those guys to fill out the roster. Peyton Watson's probably going to get, I'm guessing, 20 to 25 million, somewhere in that range in first year salary. The higher end on that would be if another team's trying to get him, because that's how you get restricted free agents. You have to pay a little bit more. I don't think it'll approach anything near like a max or even 30 plus million. That would be where, just be careful, right? If you're another team, like, let's not get silly with this, but I'm just pulling it up to make sure I have it. Peyton Watson has nearly doubled his scoring average. He's up to 14.4 points per game, 41% from three on 3.5 3-point attempts per game, just under 49.9, just under 59% from the field, 5 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game, a steal a game, and 1.2 blocks per game. Like, this is great stuff for a guy who's a wing. Like, this is really, really good stuff. And it's now, yes, it's only been this half season plus, but like, we've seen glimpses of this. And whenever you see glimpses of it with guys, I'm always a little bit more like, okay, I'm going to buy in on this a bit more with this. So, I mean, he's been, fantastic this season.
Look at the numbers as a starter: 17 points, 5.5 rebounds. I mean, he is killing it. And right now, you're in a league where every single team is starved for wings. There is a massive drought in the NBA on the wing market. Nobody will surrender these. It's why the Pelicans aren't going to move Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Teams do not want to lose these guys. So if Peyton Watson, I've been saying anyway, that restricted free agency has become a misnomer, that it is an exclusive negotiating period with your incumbent team, and that's it, because nobody will touch restricted free agents. At least that's what it's been in recent history in the NBA. Peyton Watson may be the one to buck that trend.
And we have a lot of teams with a lot of cap space.
A lot of teams with a lot of cap space.
And not a lot of other good free agents.
Basically, every team could look at Peyton Watson and say, he would fit our team, right? Yep. That's where we're at. And so that and the Denver Nuggets are a team that, based on, if you look at their books, would appear to be vulnerable to potentially losing a restricted free agent. That said, Keith, we know that even if it is a 24-hour matching period with the moratorium, let's say it's July 1st. A team comes into agreement with Peyton Watson. Your cap space is going to be tied up for a while, assuming Denver plays this the way we would expect them to. The moratorium is not going to lift till the 6th, so that you may not know until the 7th whether or not you actually have Peyton Watson or not. And by that point, free agency has moved on. So do you see teams testing Denver on this and like immediately giving an offer to Peyton Watson? How does this all play out this summer?
Yeah, I think what the more likely path is that a cap space team, rather than let's throw a bunch of cap space at them and go into that holding period where then we can't do other things, because Denver's not going to give you an answer and tell you, hey, when we officially can, we're matching and we're not matching. They're going to be like, we'll let you know when it's really a time to let you know. Because why should the Nuggets help anybody out? That's why I think because one of the teams that was rumored to make a run at him is your Lakers. Mm-hmm. Let's say the Lakers want to make a run at Peyton Watson. The better, smarter path will be, let's work out a sign and trade.
Yes.
That versus tying us up, potentially tying Denver up, right? Because if Denver's doing a sign and trade, we don't need to move Cam Johnson, right? Because we'll be okay. Because the sign and trade, because the Lakers have cap space, wouldn't have to be, well, we need you to take back player X, Y, and Z from us. Could just be trade them into our cap space, and we'll give you we'll give you one of those first round picks that we can trade or something like that. So that's where I think you try to do things a lot more reasonable. We saw this years ago when Malcolm Brogdon left the Bucks for the Pacers. The Pacers and Bucks owners were like, hey, let's not do this in restricted free agency. Let's make it a sign and trade, and then we both kind of benefit through this. So that's how I think would be more likely. I think the most likely path is Denver just keeps them and they deal with whatever they're going to do to balance out the roster and the cap sheet and the tax bill and apron challenges and all that. Because like we just went through, I mean, he's been really, really good. If you're Denver too, you have to now be approaching every season as we got to manage Aaron Gordon through it. Just with the number of hamstring injuries. And as Jokic ages, I know this was a freak injury and he never misses time, but he's going to be another guy. You're going to need to probably spot some days off to here and there just to keep him good to go. And Peyton Watson's the kind of guy that we've seen it now where it's, hey, can you carry things for us tonight? Let's go. We're good. And that's where if I'm Denver, I'm going to do everything I can to try to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no replacing Peyton Watson on the market, which I mean, I guess gets us into our next topic. The Pelicans set a high asking price for Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, because they look at it and they see there's nobody out there. There's nobody's going to part with wings. So right now, the phrase being used, I mean, if the Nuggets thought we could get Trey Murphy this summer and replace Peyton Watson with Trey Murphy, okay, maybe they'd be more willing to do something like that. That opportunity is not there. The Pelicans, the phrasing we've heard is they want a Desmond Bane level trade package, which was 4 first round picks. That's a lot, obviously. Now we can talk about was the KCP contract to factor in that and all that was being moved there. But the bottom line, that's a lot more picks than I think teams are willing to give up right now. So it's such a high ask that, Keith, I think the general perception is that these guys are not actually available unless you do something, crazy that the Pelicans simply can't say no to.
Yeah, it's like anything, right? I mean, I jokingly say it all the time, but it is true that the $1 million man, when he said everybody has a price, it just comes down to, right, will you do this for $1 billion? No. What about, $2 billion? Well, yeah, maybe. All right, now we're just negotiating, right? Like that's what this stuff comes down to. So I think it's for the Pelicans by saying, hey, we need 4 first-round picks. If some team comes and says, done, here's 4 first-round picks, then the Pelicans are like, okay, we didn't think anybody would go there, but they did. Then good luck wherever you're going, Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. And it may also be we need 4 first-round picks because what we really want is 2 firsts and 2 interesting young players. And that's where we'll get to because it's, you start up here and the other team here and kind of come closer to the middle. And that gets less so over the course of this next week as we get deeper into the trade deadline because there's just not time to play those kind of games. I meant to say this too. Can I go back? I'm going all the way back to the beginning of the show on Giannis.
Yeah.
One of the things that was mentioned to me was a Giannis trade could happen earlier, like this weekend or the beginning of the week, because then the Bucks get still a chance then to deal with the fallout of what do we do with Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, the veterans on the roster. So they were kind of, one team said, they weren't the Bucks, to be clear, but like if it was us, we would want to move earlier to get something done. So then we can also then turn around and move other guys.
Yeah.
I think that's what we want to do. So I forgot to say that earlier.
And I think that's going to be, not to go deep down the Giannis rabbit hole again here, but that's where I'm sure Portland's phone's ringing, right? Can the Bucks get some of their own picks back? Because that's only going to further incentivize them to.
And David Putney.
Yes, and David Putney, right? Fully move on from any of the veterans on their roster if they can, and fully turn the page and say, okay, this is our future now. We are building around young players. Let's go get a really good player. Remember, they do have their pick this year. It just can't be number 1, but they do have their pick this year.
Yep.
And maybe they can build for the future that way.
Yeah, if you can get the Knicks to pay for Giannis by sending Bridges or Anunoby to Portland for the Bucks picks and they get rerouted back to Milwaukee, I'm sure you're open to that idea if you're the Bucks. I've seen a lot of people suggesting, that's how this goes down, where the three central players kind of involved start to be Drew Holiday, or I guess four would be Drew Holiday from Portland to New York, Giannis to New York, Cat to Milwaukee, maybe spun elsewhere, and then Bridges or Anunoby to Portland. And that's kind of how you build all this in together. It gets complicated because those are obviously a lot of very expensive players moving around. The Knicks have hard cap issues. They're already over the first apron, but there are paths where that could make some sense. So we'll see, with that one. But yeah, we're just back into the Giannis talk again. But yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, going back to the Pelicans, I get it. I would be asking a lot for these two guys too. And they've actually played pretty well with, I don't know how much you've seen, but this weird lineup where Herb Jones and Trey Murphy start in the backcourt together. Then they're starting Derek Queen, Zion, and Sadiq Bey as the front court group. And it's just a lot of guys who can handle the ball and pass and
switch
you get some defense. Shooting's a little questionable at times with that group. And you don't have a ton of rim protection, although Queen has been improving steadily there. But you get a lot of good stuff going on there.
Yeah. Some interesting things happening in New Orleans. We'll see if they'll go ahead and make a move here with either one of those guys. I'm not counting on it at this point that they're going to do anything there. The Bulls, though, widely expected to be a team that does something on the market. Our Eric, who was on the show earlier, had a piece out with Bleacher Report about hearing the Bulls maybe looking to add to their roster, which from what I saw, Bulls fans were not super thrilled with, let's say, because they don't.
Bulls fans are like, cool if you add, but if you just add middling players that are just going to keep us 500 forever, like just stop.
Let's get us off this treadmill. But the Bulls may move Kobe White. I do think the Bulls kind of have a decision to make here with Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White, where you could move both of them, you could keep both of them, but I think more likely is you're going to move one of them as the most likely outcome here. And it does seem like Ayo Dosunmu is the one they want to hang on to, and Kobe White. And by the way, the Wolves, who today have been linked to Giannis, have been linked to a Kobe White deal as well, where he could be a way for them to get guard help without having to go. The logistics of trying to get a jaw or something like that is very, very difficult for them. But Kobe White at just under 13 million is much more in play.
He should be for just about everybody, right? Yeah. Because if you need a guard, he's really good. He can play on and off ball. He could start. He could come off the bench if you're a really good team. Yeah, and that's a much more logical and realistic target for the Timberwolves than some of the other stuff that's out there. Now, I mean, if I'm a Wolves fan, I'm just excited that my front office is aggressive and they're willing to get creative to try to do stuff. But yeah, and I had people ask, why are they looking to move Kobe White? Well, Josh Giddey emerged. They paid him. They re-signed Trey Jones. You're probably going to keep Dosunmu if you trade White. So at that point, do I really need all four of those guys in my backcourt? Probably not, right? I'm probably content with three, and there's my 3-guard rotation, and whoever else fills it out. But that's kind of where we're at with that, and that's why I think we're in a spot where, you can't. I mean, this is how they got here with Patrick Williams, right? It was like, oh, he's a nice player. We really got to keep him. And then now his contract looks terrible. Now a lot of that's on. He hasn't, continued to develop and he's been bad, but that's what you got to be careful of with. So as long as you get something good for Kobe White, sure. But if you turn Kobe White's $13 million contract into like a guy who makes $15 million for the next 3 years, it's just kind of okay. I'd be pretty upset if I'm Bulls fans too. I'd rather just have draft capital.
Kobe White for Terrence Mann or something like that.
Yeah, like I'd be livid if I was a Bulls fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or it was like, hey, we're gonna trade Kobe White and Kevin Huerter for, I don't know, just Anthony Simons. Like why? Like, what was the point of that? Like, that didn't do anything.
So you can get a game or two of playoff revenue.
Play-in revenue, maybe.
Play-in revenue, I should have said. All right.
Maybe playoff revenue. I don't know. We'll see. The bottom of the East is not exactly a gladiatorial duel here.
True. All right, let's Keith. When a team gives you permission to go explore a trade on the market, and your agency the permission to go pursue a trade on the market, pretty likely that player's not going to survive the trade. Hey, we will let you, screw tampering. We will let you talk to whoever you want to talk to. Go find yourself a new home. Jeremy Sochan given permission to seek a trade. So the Spurs will work with Sochan to try to find a new home for him.
Yeah, and if people haven't been following, he doesn't play anymore. He's not part of the rotation. Keldon Johnson has been basically the backup forward for this team. He's been awesome. He should be
Keldon Johnson.
I love him. I think he's a great player, and I think he should be very heavily involved in Sixth Man of the Year conversation there. And then as guys like Champagny and Barnes have played well, Devin Vassell is now back. Carter Bryant, who's a couple years younger than Sochan. I don't think this is the Spurs saying you stink. I think it's just we're probably not going to re-sign you to a contract you'll like in the summertime. If you can find a place where they're like, hey, we're happy to have you and we want to give you a good chunk of change this summer, by all means. It's been rumored maybe he could go in a trade that brings Gershon Yabusele to San Antonio, not necessarily Sochan to the Knicks, maybe Sochan to the Knicks. That could be the way this plays out, but that could be something that happens. So keep an eye on all of that. But I think we're just kind of in a spot with Jeremy Sochan where it's like, yeah, we're probably getting down to the dwindling days here, a week from the trade deadline for him in San Antonio.
Well, the clock is ticking. What are we now? Is it we're not quite a week on the nose.
1 week.
I'm talking about to the hour.
20 minutes. From
as we're recording this.
We record this. Yep.
All right.
1 week and 20 minutes. So
clock is ticking.
Yeah. Guys, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We got our regular Friday live show tomorrow. We will have a live show Saturday. We'll let you know tomorrow more about that and who's joining us. Should be a lot of fun for everybody there. Then we have next week, hopefully we'll be going live unexpectedly because we'll have some big trades to break down, but we will be live on trade deadline day. We'll figure all that out when we get there. But again, this is why you subscribe, turn on your notifications, then you'll never miss out when we're live.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Turn on those notifications. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us over on Apple Podcasts as well. Yes, and like this as well. Thank you, everybody. Big thank you to Eric Pincus for joining our show today. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.